I'm worried if she finds out how I make money when I'm not working. She could leave me.
It is a giant concern and a huge red flag. I'm absolutely shocked.
Imagine falling in love with someone, planning a future together, only to discover the person you trust might be hiding more than just a small secret. Laura thought she had found her soulmate in Burkhan, also known as Biran, in the heart of Istanbul. But what if the man she's ready to follow across continents is sitting on a $50,000 debt that could change everything? That's right. What started as a romantic dream is already tangled in financial chaos, hidden motives, and choices that could shake the very foundation of their relationship. I'm Sabrina. Welcome to TLC Drama Live. Make sure you hit subscribe and comment below what you think about this situation, because the reality of Laura and Burkhan's story is not just shocking, it's a roller coaster of trust, deception, and high-stakes decisions. Laura met Burkhan in Istanbul, and at first glance, he seemed charming, attentive, and full of dreams. She fell for his smile, his way of making even the mundane feel special, and the promise of adventure together. The city itself seemed like a perfect backdrop for a love story, romantic streets, historic cafes, and the excitement of a life far from ordinary. Burkhan, on the other hand, carried a charm that made Laura believe he had it all under control, even when reality was far messier. He spoke about America with a glimmer of hope in his eyes, painting a picture of opportunity, freedom, and a fresh start where debts could be left behind and past struggles forgotten. But beneath that dream was a financial truth Laura couldn't yet see. A staggering $50,000 debt, allegedly hidden, that Burkhan claims is somehow different in his mind than in reality. He insists it's 50,000 Turkish lira, but in dollars, it's a number that could rival 3 years of an average salary in Istanbul. And that's before we even consider the additional layers of secrets he's keeping. On paper, it seemed simple. Laura loves Burkhan, he promises a future in America, and together they will start a new chapter. But reality never follows a neat script. Burkhan has been unemployed in Istanbul for months, telling Laura, "I'm just broke," while keeping the details of his life carefully veiled. There's a strange duality here. He presents himself as struggling but responsible, yet he quietly makes money on the side in ways Laura doesn't know. She senses something is off but can't pinpoint it, because he smiles, he reassures, and he spins narratives that make hope feel tangible. The tension builds in every conversation they have, every plan they make about moving, because the very foundation of trust is layered with unknowns that could either unravel or explode when least expected. Laura's excitement for a new life in America is contagious, and you can almost feel it through the camera, the anticipation, the dreams of opportunity, the belief that love conquers all. But the weight of Burkhan's hidden motives lingers. She worries, albeit subtly, that maybe his heart isn't entirely in it, that perhaps the green card she could help him secure is driving his decisions more than any genuine love or commitment. And Burkhan, caught in his own mental balancing act, seems to oscillate between charm, evasion, and calculated risk. He tells Laura he has a plan to pay off debts, to work multiple jobs, to somehow make everything work if they move to America. But one glance at the numbers, or a casual question about money, and cracks begin to appear. The city of Istanbul feels alive around them, but it also mirrors the tension, a place of beauty and chaos, where nothing is as simple as it seems. The cafes, the historic streets, the lively neighborhoods are all part of the stage where this drama unfolds. Laura's hope collides with Burkhan's secrets, and the story we're about to explore will show just how delicate the balance between trust and deception can be. Every step they take toward a new life is shadowed by choices and secrets that could have irreversible consequences. As we follow them, you'll notice that what appears to be minor tension often carries the weight of much larger truth. Burkhan smiles, talks about love and opportunity, but what is he not saying? And how will Laura react when the reality finally surfaces? Every conversation, every plan, every reassurance from Burkhan feels like a test of how far hope can stretch before the truth hits. And that's where the story hooks you. It's not just about debt or visa ambitions, it's about human psychology, trust, and the uncomfortable reality that sometimes love doesn't come with all the facts laid bare. $50,000. For most people, that's life-changing. For Burkhan, It's apparently something you can sidestep with a plane ticket. He insists it's just 50,000 Turkish lira, but when you do the math, it's closer to 3 years of an average salary in Istanbul, a number that is impossible to ignore, impossible to casually wave away, and impossible to reconcile with the carefree smile he flashes when Laura talks about their future. This isn't just money. It's the invisible weight he carries, hidden beneath charm, promises, and dreams of America, and it casts a shadow over every plan they make together. Laura, understandably, had no idea about the scale of this debt at first. She's someone who balances life carefully, who considers the practical side of moving to a new country, and who believes in honesty when it comes to money. Watching Burkhan navigate their conversations about the future, she senses the gaps, the pauses, the moments when his answers feel rehearsed. She asks questions like how they'll afford rent, how they'll handle emergencies, and each time he smiles, sidesteps, or mutters vague reassurances, her unease grows. The audience can feel it. Every glance, every subtle hesitation on her part, every moment where reality presses up against Burkhan's carefully constructed narrative. From a psychological standpoint, Burkhan's behavior fits a pattern of denial and escapism. It's one thing to struggle financially, but it's another to actively try to erase the consequences of your choices by creating a fantasy where debt and responsibility no longer exist. He talks about moving to America like it's a magic eraser, a fresh start that somehow nullifies obligations. And it's fascinating in a troubling way to watch someone so convinced that physical distance can solve financial reality. Risk-taking becomes part of his identity, not in the sense of calculated opportunity, but in the sense of gambling with someone else's trust while believing charm alone can carry him. This tension between responsibility and illusion of freedom is at the heart of the drama. Burkhan can imagine a future where Laura sees only love and hope, not numbers and debts, and that imagined freedom drives him. Laura, however, is tethered to reality. She thinks about rent, bills, visas, and what it means to start a life in a new country without a clear plan to cover debts or generate income. Every detail Burkhan evades, every explanation that lacks clarity amplifies her anxiety, and the subtle distrust begins to seep into the foundation of their relationship. There's no villain here in the traditional sense, but there is a clash of perspectives. One partner grounded in the measurable, the other floating in escape fantasies and calculated omissions. For Laura, discovering the truth could come as a shock so severe it could redefine the relationship overnight. The audience watches her navigate the balance of hope and suspicion, of wanting to believe in love, but sensing the gaps in Burkhan's story. Every casual remark about work, every avoidance of financial specifics feels loaded, like a ticking time bomb hidden beneath his charm. Will she confront him before the move? Will she uncover the true scale of the debt? Or will she board a plane carrying expectations that clash violently with reality? These questions linger in every frame, every glance, every moment of silence between them. Burkhan's logic, if you can call it that, is compelling in its audacity. He believes that leaving Turkey will make debts disappear in Laura's mind as well as his own, as if distance itself is a remedy. He even hints at side incomes that Laura cannot access or verify, adding another layer to the tension. Each secret and each evasion is a small test of trust, and each day brings Laura closer to either discovery or disillusionment. Watching this unfold is gripping because it exposes the uncomfortable reality that financial deception doesn't just threaten numbers, it threatens relationships, dreams, and the very idea of partnership. As the plane ticket to America looms, every conversation, every unanswered question about money, and every small smile hides a storm. Laura's awareness grows, her intuition sharpens, and the suspense of whether she will discover the debt before moving is almost unbearable. For the viewers, the tension is palpable. Every plan to escape the financial truth is countered by the inevitability of reality catching up. Burkhan may think distance will protect him, but the truth has a way of traveling faster than any flight. Burkhan says, "I'm just broke," like it's a casual shrug, a tiny inconvenience in an otherwise romantic story, But behind those words lies a much larger tension, one that Laura feels with every conversation, every plan they try to make for a life in America. Being unemployed in Istanbul isn't unusual, but when combined with a $50,000 debt, secret incomes, and an urgent desire to move abroad, it becomes a powder keg of stress, doubt, and behavioral contradiction. On the surface, Burkhan presents himself as capable, charming, and optimistic about the future. Yet the reality is stark. He has no steady job, no predictable income, and no financial cushion to cover even the most basic living expenses. Every excuse, every casual "I'm just broke" is a layer of smoke that obscures the deeper issues, and Laura is starting to notice the pattern. From a behavioral perspective, repeated avoidance of financial responsibility tells a story beyond the words themselves. Burkhan's phrasing, his tone, the timing of his statements all signal an underlying strategy: deflect, charm, and minimize, making problems seem smaller than they are. It's a classic pattern of escapism, one that can feel compelling in the short term because hope and personality temporarily overshadow reality, but in practice, it delays confrontation with the very real consequences of debt and unemployment. Every time he avoids a concrete discussion about money, every time he reassures Laura without evidence, the tension builds and the stakes grow higher because America isn't forgiving of financial illusions. The conflict between the fantasy of being a provider and the reality of being broke is stark. Burkhan imagines himself as someone who will start fresh, who will work multiple jobs, who will create a life where debts are irrelevant and love conquers all obstacles. In theory, this provider fantasy is appealing. It shows ambition and a desire to care for a partner, but it clashes violently with the present reality. He cannot yet provide, cannot yet secure the life he promises, and every day spent avoiding the details of his unemployment is a gamble with both Laura's trust and their shared future. The tension between aspiration and truth is something the audience can feel in every frame. The smiles that try to mask anxiety, the reassurances that ring hollow, and the subtle signs of strain in Laura's expressions as she considers what moving abroad will actually entail. The practical implications of relocating to another country with no stable income are enormous. Rent, food, bills, visas, and unexpected emergencies are not negotiable. They require planning, preparation, and transparency, none of which Burkhan has fully committed to providing. For Laura, every discussion about packing, tickets, and living arrangements is shadowed by uncertainty. She wonders, how will we survive? What if he can't find work? Will debts follow us to a new country in ways that are unavoidable? The audience can feel her dilemma because it mirrors a real-world tension. Love is powerful, but survival requires honesty and financial responsibility. It's a precarious balance, and Burkhan's evasions tilt that balance dangerously. Amid all of this, Burkhan drops hints about another source of money, though details remain vague. He teases the idea without revealing the full picture, creating a magnetic pull of curiosity, a small beacon of hope wrapped in uncertainty. Laura can't confirm it, can't see it, and can't fully trust it, which is exactly where tension thrives. Every "I have a plan" or "you'll see" moment becomes an invitation to speculate, an emotional tug-of-war that keeps viewers invested, watching for the next reveal. It's an intricate dance of perception and reality. He wants to be seen as capable while hiding the truth. She wants to trust while feeling the cracks in the foundation, and the audience watches both sides, caught in the suspense of whether that hidden money is real, sufficient, or even relevant. The narrative escalates because Burkhan's unemployment is not just a fact, it's the lens through which every decision, every promise, and every interaction is filtered. The charm, the humor, the casual ease all serve to distract, but they cannot erase the weight of being broke, of owing significant debt, and of planning a cross-continental move without concrete preparation. Each scene pulses with tension because the stakes are clear, love is on the line, trust is on the line, and reality is pressing from all sides. The audience feels the growing anxiety as Laura navigates her hope and suspicion, and Burkhan hovers between honesty and omission, teasing a solution that may or may not exist. Burkhan claims he's broke, yet he secretly makes money that Laura knows nothing about. And that contradiction alone is enough to twist tension into something almost unbearable. On the surface, he presents the image of a man struggling, juggling dreams of America and promises of hard work. But beneath that image, there's another story. A side income, carefully hidden, unexplained, and intentionally kept out of Laura's sight. Every time he sidesteps questions about finances, every vague answer or change of subject, it heightens the psychological pressure. For Laura, this isn't just about money. It's about trust, the foundation of any relationship, and the creeping fear that Burkhan might be deceiving her not out of malice, but out of self-preservation, or perhaps calculation. From a psychological standpoint, secrets like this create a constant undercurrent of anxiety. Trust becomes conditional and fragile, Laura wants to believe, but the lack of transparency forces her mind to fill in the gaps. She wonders if the money comes from legal work or risky ventures, from side hustles she wouldn't approve of, or from schemes she doesn't even understand yet. Every smile from Burkhan now carries dual meaning, charm and evasiveness combined. Every reassurance has a shadow lurking behind it. The audience can feel this tension building because secrecy isn't just about hiding dollars, it's about controlling perception, maintaining comfort while keeping others slightly off balance, and it's a dynamic that is all too familiar in real relationships where money and power intersect. The suspense surrounding this secret income is palpable. How much does he actually make? From where is this money coming? Why hide it from Laura if he truly intends to move to America with her and start a new life? Each unanswered question becomes a magnet, pulling viewers deeper into the story because human curiosity thrives on gaps, on mysteries, and on the potential for confrontation. Burkhan's choice to withhold details doesn't just protect him, it sets up layers of emotional stakes that could explode at any moment. The audience is left speculating alongside Laura. Could this money actually be enough to erase the $50,000 debt? Could it fund their move? And if so, at what cost to trust, communication, and the authenticity of their relationship? Laura's reactions are telling. She senses the inconsistencies, notices the hesitation in his answers, and feels the unspoken weight of a secret. It's not just the financial implications that matter, it's the hidden logic that comes with it. Burkhan has built a narrative where hope, charm, and optimism mask reality. For him, keeping the income secret may feel like protection. Protection of Laura's faith, protection of his own image, or protection from immediate confrontation. For Laura, it's an invisible test. Can she trust him despite inconsistencies? Or will the secrecy unravel what she believes is love? Watching her navigate this tension gives viewers an intimate look at the psychological push and pull of relationships built on partial truths. Here's where it gets even more complicated. That hidden money, if revealed, could solve the financial puzzle of debts and relocation, but it could also ignite a far bigger conflict. Disclosure might bring relief, yes, but it could also provoke anger, suspicion, or feelings of betrayal because money that was intentionally concealed carries implications beyond simple dollars. Trust is fragile, and when money enters the equation as a secret, it becomes a double-edged sword. It can save the couple, or it can deepen the rift and magnify underlying fears about motives, honesty, and intention. Viewers watching can't help but speculate. Is this income legitimate, questionable, or somewhere in between? Is it enough to cover the debt, or just a drop in a growing ocean of financial instability? How far is Burkhan willing to go to maintain appearances? And how much is Laura ready to accept before reality forces a confrontation? The story teases at these questions, keeping the suspense tight, the emotional stakes high, and the audience leaning in with every passing moment. Money, after all, may not just solve the debt, it might reshape the entire trajectory of their relationship, for better or worse. And every glance, every hesitation, every half-explained answer adds fuel to the uncertainty. Laura can feel it. There's a tension beneath Burkhan's charm, a subtle undertone that makes her question whether love is truly the driving force in this relationship or if it's something far more transactional. Every compliment, every smile, every promise of a life in America carries a shadow of doubt. She wonders if he's more focused on the green card than the future they're supposedly building together. The way he talks about moving sometimes feels less like planning a life with her and more like calculating a personal escape route from Istanbul, from debt, from responsibility. And that doubt eats at her, quietly, persistently, as she weighs each word he says against what she already knows and doesn't know about his financial secrets and evasions. Transactional relationships aren't always obvious at first. They rarely start with a contract or an explicit declaration, but subtle cues accumulate over time. Promises that always circle back to convenience for one party, excitement about the benefits of a move without the same focus on shared sacrifices, and conversations where intentions are implied but never fully stated. Laura notices these patterns. Every discussion about moving, work, and the future is tinged with the sense that Burkhan's priorities might not perfectly align with hers. His eagerness for a green card, paired with the hidden debt and secret income, paints a picture that is difficult to ignore. If the visa is secured, some of the challenges he faces in Istanbul become irrelevant, almost magically erased in his mind, while Laura's hopes for a shared future remain tethered to reality. Burkhan's logic is striking in its audacity. In his mind, leaving the country is a solution to problems that don't go away anywhere else. Debt, financial instability, social expectations, all can be temporarily escaped by boarding a plane. To him, moving to America isn't just about opportunity, it's about rewriting consequences. It's a psychological maneuver. If he is physically elsewhere, the immediate pressures of Istanbul no longer exist, and the risks of disclosure to Laura are postponed. For the audience, it's a mix of fascination and frustration to watch someone operate under this reasoning, knowing full well the tension it creates for the partner who is trying to navigate the same reality. The emotional stakes are enormous. For Laura, love isn't measured in promises or potential, it's measured in transparency, consistency, and mutual effort. For Burkhan, moving is a solution to financial and emotional challenges, but it risks undermining the very relationship he claims to want. This imbalance, the difference between emotional investment and strategic thinking, creates a tension that the audience can feel because it's grounded in human behavior. We recognize it, perhaps too well, the fear that the person you trust has a motive that doesn't fully include you, and the challenge of deciding whether hope outweighs caution. Despite the red flags and the growing tension, Burkhan continues to make sweeping promises. He assures Laura that everything will work out, that their life in America will be smooth, that he will somehow manage to pay debts, find work, and make her happy. The language is seductive, persuasive, and carefully constructed to inspire belief. Yet the history of evasions and secrets makes it difficult to know whether these promises are grounded in truth or wishful thinking. Every word he says is a test of Laura's trust, and every pause or hesitation invites speculation. Will he actually follow through, or is this just another layer of manipulation? For viewers, this moment is riveting because it highlights the precarious balance between hope and skepticism. Laura wants to believe in love and a shared future, but Burkhan's patterns invite doubt. Every smile, every plan, and every declaration of intent must be weighed against the reality of debt, unemployment, and secret income. The tension is electric, the stakes emotional, and the next steps uncertain. Laura faces a critical choice: to trust blindly and move forward, or to pause, probe, and protect herself from a reality that might be far less romantic than it appears. Burkhan lives in a world of escape, a mental space where distance solves problems and promises erase reality. Every time he talks about moving to America, it's as if the streets of Istanbul, the mounting debts, and the financial responsibilities that weigh on him simply disappear. He frames relocation as freedom, a new beginning where past mistakes and unpaid bills won't follow him, and for a while, it seems almost believable, especially to Laura, who wants to see the best in him. But reality doesn't bend so easily, and the tension between the fantasy he constructs and the practical consequences of his choices is impossible to ignore. Every discussion, every plan to leave, is layered with optimism on the surface and avoidance underneath. This escape mentality isn't just about money, it's about identity, control, and coping. Burkhan's mind constructs a scenario where the stakes can be rewritten. Debts are less pressing, responsibilities less immediate, and his image as a capable partner remains intact. Psychologists call this a form of cognitive escapism, a way of managing overwhelming stress by imagining solutions that don't yet exist. It explains the patterns we see: evasive answers, selective truth-telling, and the subtle charm that deflects difficult questions. He isn't necessarily malicious, but the impact of this thinking creates tension, uncertainty, and emotional friction for Laura, who is grounded in reality and increasingly aware that moving isn't a magical fix. The contrast between realistic thinking and delusional hope is stark. Laura plans meticulously, weighing costs, potential income, and what it would take to build a stable life in a new country. Burkhan, meanwhile, promises that everything will fall into place once they cross the ocean. It's the difference between problem-solving and wishful thinking, and every conversation about their future exposes it. When he says he will work 2 jobs or figure out the debt later, the optimism feels almost performative. It's hopeful, Yes, but it skirts the line between practical planning and fantasy, and the audience can feel the tension ripple in every interaction. From a human perspective, there's an empathetic logic behind this behavior. People hide debt not just out of fear or shame, but because confronting the full scope of financial problems can be psychologically paralyzing. Fantasizing about escape, whether through relocation, a big life change, or a promise of fresh opportunity, creates a mental buffer against reality. A space where hope temporarily shields them from stress and judgment. Burkhan's behavior reflects a common pattern: delaying confrontation, masking insecurity, and relying on charm and partial truths to maintain relationships and self-image. It's a risky strategy because the longer it goes on, the greater the potential shock when reality catches up, and the more tension it creates for the partner who is being asked to invest emotionally without full knowledge of the facts. For Laura, this pattern is both alluring and alarming. She sees the vision of a new life, the hope of America, the potential to escape current struggles together, but she also senses the cracks. Every plan feels like a leap of faith, every promise a test, and every vague reference to money or stability is a reminder that reality may not align with fantasy. The emotional push and pull is exhausting because it requires constant vigilance, trust must be measured, hope must be tempered, and skepticism must coexist with desire. As moving day approaches, the tension escalates. Every suitcase packed, every conversation about tickets and accommodations, every plan for their new life is shadowed by questions about debts, secret incomes, and intentions. The closer they get to departure, the more the contrast between Burkhan's escape fantasies and the practical reality becomes unavoidable. The audience can feel the anxiety building because the stakes are clear. One misstep, one revelation, and the dream could collapse. Every smile and reassurance from Burkhan carries dual meaning, every plan contains risk, and every hopeful statement is charged with the potential for conflict. Laura's suspicions aren't small anymore. They've grown into a constant hum at the back of her mind, impossible to ignore. Every vague answer from Burkhan, every sidestepped question about money, every casual reassurance that everything will work out now carries weight. She starts noticing patterns she may have brushed off at first: a phone call ended abruptly, a vague excuse about errands, or the occasional hint that he's making money she isn't aware of. The tension builds in their interactions like electricity. Conversations that once felt lighthearted now carry undercurrents of doubt, and even small disagreements about moving logistics or finances quickly escalate. Laura isn't angry yet. Not fully, but there's a simmering unease that colors every look, every pause, and every smile that Burkhan flashes. Behavioral red flags are stacking up. Hiding debts, keeping secret side work, and making promises that sound plausible but are nearly impossible to verify all point to a pattern that any careful observer would recognize. Burkhan's charm and optimism mask these red flags for a while, but charm only delays confrontation. It doesn't erase it. Laura begins to piece together inconsistencies that feel too coincidental to ignore, numbers that don't add up, stories that shift slightly depending on the context, and the constant tension between what she sees and what he says. This is a classic clash between perception and reality, and it's fascinating and nerve-wracking for viewers to witness. The audience senses, often before Laura does, that trust is being tested and that the coming reveal will carry enormous consequences. Adding another layer, friends and family start dropping subtle hints, intentionally or not. A casual remark about financial stability, a comment on social media posts, even an innocuous meme about hidden debts, all of it nudges Laura's awareness forward. Social media reactions, particularly the ones pointing out inconsistencies or showing skepticism, act like whispers in the background. Are you sure he's being honest? The combined effect of personal observation, third-party hints, and online chatter intensifies her anxiety. It's a psychological pressure cooker. Laura wants to believe in the love story, in the shared dream of America, but every clue, every suggestion, every glimmer of doubt nudges her toward confrontation. The tension isn't just internal, it's amplified externally. And the story gains layers of intrigue that the audience feels in real time. Every argument, no matter how minor, now has an undertone of these deeper issues. A disagreement about packing, budgeting, or the timing of flights becomes symbolic of larger conflicts: honesty versus omission, trust versus evasion, love versus self-interest. Burkhan responds with charm, humor, or vague promises, but Laura's mind races, weighing every word against the accumulating evidence. The push-pull dynamic of desire desire and suspicion creates an almost cinematic tension. The audience can feel the stakes rising with each heartbeat, each glance, each fleeting silence between them. As the story progresses, the audience can anticipate that a major reveal is looming, a confrontation that could shatter trust and force both Laura and Burkhan to face truths they've been avoiding. The hints are there, scattered like breadcrumbs. The numbers that don't align, the vague allusions to secret income, the sudden suggestions from friends or online observers. All of it converges toward a moment of reckoning that promises to change the trajectory of their relationship. The tension is electric because viewers know the consequences are real, personal, and immediate. By the end of this segment, Laura is on edge. And so is the audience. Every conversation feels weighted, every smile suspect, and every plan carries the potential to explode. The sense of anticipation is almost unbearable. The major reveal is coming, and when it lands, the foundation of trust they've built, or believe they've built, may fracture entirely. The streets of Istanbul are alive, bustling with history, vibrant markets, and the rhythm of everyday life. Yet for Laura and Burkhan, that same environment highlights the stark contrast between reality and dream, between Turkish lifestyle and the American future they hope to build. In Turkey, the cost of living is lower than in the United States, but earning potential is limited. Burkhan's $50,000 debt, roughly 3 years of an average salary, looms like a mountain that can't be ignored, and Laura sees the practical challenges, bills, rent, the daily grind, and how limited resources in Istanbul can quickly become overwhelming. Burkhan's evasive behavior, combined with cultural expectations around family, pride, and male provider roles, intensifies the stress. In America, Laura envisions opportunity, stability, and a chance to start fresh. But the leap requires trust, full transparency, and readiness to face consequences. The clash between these realities creates a friction that feels almost tangible. Culture amplifies misunderstandings in ways that are subtle but profound. In Turkey, debt might be discussed differently. Side jobs might be normalized or kept private, and social expectations can shape how someone presents themselves. Burkhan grew up in an environment where pride, appearance, and saving face can outweigh full disclosure, while Laura approaches relationships with a more direct, transparent lens. Every skipped detail, every carefully worded sentence about finances feels larger because the audience senses how cultural norms interact with personal choices. The combination of hidden debts, secret income, and a strong desire to escape amplifies tension. What may feel like a small omission in one context becomes a massive red flag in another. The stakes could not be higher. Moving abroad without resolving debt is not just risky, it's potentially life-altering. In Istanbul, Burkhan has ways to hide, defer, or navigate consequences slowly. But America doesn't operate the same way. Every dollar matters, every employment detail becomes crucial, and every secret he carries could explode under scrutiny. Laura's trust is also on the line. She's investing not only emotionally, but practically, preparing for a life that relies on honesty and shared responsibility. The contrast between the stability she hopes for and the fantasy Burkhan clings to creates tension that escalates with each discussion, each plan, and each unspoken concern. From a psychological perspective, Burkhan's escapist thinking is magnified by these cultural and financial contrasts. Fantasizing about a new life in America, where debts are distant memories and promises can feel like reality, is a coping mechanism. It allows him to feel in control, to preserve his self-image as a provider, and to maintain a narrative where Laura remains invested and hopeful. Yet this strategy carries enormous risk. The longer secrets linger, the more fragile trust becomes, and the more likely a single revelation can unravel months of planning and emotional investment. Laura is caught in the tension between hope and skepticism. She dreams of a future in America with Burkhan, yet every financial ambiguity, every evasive answer, and every hint of secrecy keeps her on edge. The audience can feel her anxiety, the constant weighing of risk versus reward, and the emotional calculation she is forced to make. Moving promises freedom and opportunity, but it also magnifies consequences. The allure of a fresh start is tempered by the very real threat of unresolved debts and hidden truths. As this chapter unfolds, Burkhan faces a crossroads. The cultural norms, financial pressure, and emotional stakes create a situation where he might take a reckless step to keep his secrets intact. Every decision, every evasion, and every hidden source of income adds pressure, and the audience senses the impending volatility. The tension is almost unbearable. because one impulsive move could either temporarily protect him or permanently fracture the trust Laura has in him. The tension finally snaps. Months of doubt, suspicion, and careful observation reach a boiling point, and Laura can no longer ignore the inconsistencies. Something is off, and she knows it. The signs she's been noticing, the vague answers, the evasions about money, the hints of a secret side income, suddenly demand confrontation. The moment is electric, charged with months of unspoken questions and quiet anxiety. Viewers feel the weight of it immediately, because this is the point where hope and reality collide, where charm and fantasy meet accountability. Laura's voice carries a mix of frustration, hurt, and determination as she confronts Burkhan about his motives, his finances, and his vision for their future. Burkhan's initial reaction is telling. There's a flicker of guilt, a hesitation that speaks louder than any word. For someone who has carefully constructed a narrative where moving to America erases debts and secrets, being confronted destabilizes everything. He moves between defense and charm, trying to explain, deflect, or justify, yet every explanation is measured, carefully chosen to calm Laura without fully disclosing the truth. The psychological tension here is palpable. He's caught between maintaining trust and admitting the reality he's hidden, and the audience can feel the internal struggle as clearly as Laura does. Laura's emotional beats are intense and multifaceted. Shock is immediate, the visceral reaction to discovering that the situation is far more complex than she had believed. Betrayal follows closely behind, fueled not just by money or debts, but by the realization that Burkhan's intentions may not have been entirely aligned with her own. Doubt creeps in like a shadow. How much has he been honest, and how much has been carefully orchestrated for his benefit? Fear pulses in the background as she considers the implications of moving abroad under these conditions. And yet, amidst the tension, there's a glimmer of relief. Finally, the truth is out. The questions she's been silently asking are acknowledged, and the power to make decisions returns to her hands. Behaviorally, this confrontation is a microcosm of the entire story arc. Laura is forced to process months of subtle manipulation, evasions, and charm, while Burkhan must navigate the consequences of choices that were previously hidden. For viewers, it's riveting because the stakes are both practical and emotional. The relationship, the financial reality, and the dream of a fresh start all hinge on how this conversation unfolds. Every pause, every defensive glance, every carefully crafted word adds tension, deepens intrigue, and forces the audience to speculate. Will he admit everything? Will trust be rebuilt? Or has the foundation of their relationship shifted irreparably? The psychological dynamics are layered. Burkhan's evasions, once a form of escapism, are now fully exposed, and the emotional cost becomes apparent. Laura must reconcile love, hope, and ambition with the reality of deception and omission. The confrontation tests boundaries, measures resilience, and forces both of them to consider what moving abroad actually means in terms of transparency, responsibility, and shared values. The audience experiences this like an emotional roller coaster: initial shock, rising tension, moments of frustration, and the careful weighing of potential outcomes. As the scene closes, the final choice looms. Laura must decide whether to trust Burkhan moving forward, to demand transparency before committing to a life in America, or to pause entirely until clarity is restored. Burkhan's next words, actions, and promises carry enormous weight, and viewers are left on edge, holding their breath, because the resolution is not immediate. Every glance, every hesitation, every unspoken thought signals that a pivotal decision is approaching, one that could redefine everything they've worked toward or dreamed about. The moment of truth arrives. Laura has weighed every hint, every omission, every promise Burkhan made, and she finally makes her choice. Her decision isn't easy. It carries emotional weight, practical implications, and months of built-up tension. But it is decisive. In confronting Burkhan and insisting on clarity, she asserts her boundaries, her expectations, and her vision for the future. For Burkhan, this is the ultimate test. How will he respond when charm and evasions no longer suffice? When the consequences of hidden debts, secret income, and unfinished promises are laid bare? His actions in this moment define not just the next chapter of their relationship, but the credibility of every plan he's ever suggested. Laura's choice highlights a key theme throughout their story. Trust is not optional. It can't be assumed, nor can it be postponed indefinitely. Her decision reflects the reality that love, ambition, and hope are only sustainable when paired with honesty and shared responsibility. For viewers, this is a lesson that resonates beyond reality television. Transparency matters, even when it's uncomfortable, even when secrets seem small or justified. Relationships built on partial truths may survive short-term charm, but long-term stability demands full engagement with reality. Burkhan's response is revealing. Whether he doubles down on charm, admits everything openly, or falters under scrutiny, the consequences of his earlier choices are unavoidable. Every hidden debt, every secret source of income, every imagined shortcut he relied upon has now collided with the expectations Laura set. This moment serves as a behavioral mirror. Escapism and avoidance may delay confrontation, but they also magnify stakes and intensify emotional consequences when reality arrives. For the audience, watching him navigate the fallout is as captivating as the secrets themselves, because it illustrates how actions, even well-intentioned or rationalized ones, have tangible effects on relationships and trust. The psychological lessons here are layered. Burkhan's escape-oriented thinking shows why people sometimes hide debts, create illusions of hope, or defer responsibility. They seek temporary comfort, protection from shame, and a chance to maintain a self-image of competence. Laura's approach demonstrates the power of agency, careful observation, and confronting reality without abandoning hope. It's a delicate balance. Empathy and understanding coexist with boundaries and accountability. As viewers reflect on this dynamic, the natural question arises: what would you do in Laura's place? Would you take a leap of faith, insist on transparency, or step back until clarity is achieved? Engaging with this question allows the audience to internalize lessons from the drama and relate them to real-world decisions in love, finance, and personal responsibility. The resolution also underscores the importance of aligning intentions with action. Moving abroad, managing debt, and maintaining a relationship are challenges that require concrete planning, mutual trust, and practical follow-through. When fantasies collide with reality, the consequences aren't abstract. They manifest in emotional strain, relational friction, and the constant weighing of hope against doubt. Laura and Burkhan's story crystallizes these dynamics in a way that is both relatable and instructive. As the story closes, there is a sense of closure, but also curiosity for what comes next. The lessons about trust, responsibility, and escapism linger, leaving the audience reflecting on choices and consequences, while subtle hints suggest that future twists in their lives, or in similar couple stories, could bring even higher stakes. For viewers who followed every tension-filled moment, the natural pull is forward, to see what unfolds next, to witness how honesty, deception, and hope continue to shape relationships in high-pressure, high-stakes environments. The story ends with resolution, but the human questions it raises about choices, accountability, and emotional courage remain alive, bridging seamlessly into the next episode of drama and intrigue. So, as you consider Laura and Burkhan's journey, think about your own boundaries, your tolerance for risk, and the moments when hope and reality collide. What would you do if you were in Laura's position, balancing love, trust, and practical survival? And stay tuned, because in the next video, we'll explore another shocking 90-day fiancé couple whose secrets, suspicions, and high-stakes choices are guaranteed to leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, money, and loyalty.